Welcome to my humble abode. I am Yorkie the Talespinner, and this is Tales Over Coffee, our morning show, where we start the day together with a cup of coffee and a narrative tale in the hope of welcoming a blessed day. And this, my friend, the continuing tale of Anton Rain's presidency in Sordland. Suzerain. Things are getting intense, and I don't hold up much hope for our boy Anton. We'll just have to see how things go. Time for the next turn. Wealth of Nations. Oh, those shadowy figures seem a little condemning in the way they stand, in their stance, I think. We'll just have to see. Let's check the news. Caven Times Health requires more resources. The latest report coming out of the Ministry of Health regarding the current situation and the need for privatisation raises serious questions about the gargantuan scale of efforts required to solve the structural issues of the health in Sordland. One part of the report about the threat of a potential epidemic being real stands out as it highlights the problem of the current voluntary vaccination policy. Minister Benevol has increased calls for more financial resources to be able to make more changes to welfare within one term, cover existential issues like epidemic prevention. The report on the potential effects of privatisation also included the downsides of what damage private interests could do inside the system of healthcare. However, the ministry pointed out that a small-scale implementation, the one it proposes, would be able to deliver efficient results. From the radical, the hidden power of men in uniform. No political leader in Sordland can survive in office without some support from the general staff. President Antor Visky was a leader who learned this lesson the hard way. In 1927, a military coup brought an end to his short term as president, and later President Alfonso became a target of alleged conspiracy by the old guard, who are known to be very close to the general staff of the Swedish armed forces. Though nowadays fewer officers assume the role of political leaders, military influence continues to have major repercussions in politics across Eastern Mokopa. According to a report by the Alliance of Nations, Sordland has one of the most influential militaries in the region, coming just behind Velen, where the actions of generals indicate serious military interference in politics. As the reports show, many in uniform still enjoy considerable influence on politics of Sordland, and nothing is being done to reverse that situation, despite the country's history of coups and civil war. Well, the army is rather important, especially with these buggers getting things hot on the border. Let's see what we have here. A report from Halsod, privatisation plan proposal. The Ministry of Health has finished a privatisation proposal plan in order to increase the resources of the health system and increase the quality of services through small-scale market competition. Additionally, the Ministry's report highlighted the weaknesses Sordland has when it comes to a potential epidemic. Minister Benevol reported that much could be achieved through the healthcare system if the private sector could slightly assist by generating new revenue streams and adding new services. Ministry of Justice files Urson vs Sordland occurrence. The Ministry of Justice has reviewed the Urson vs Sordland case and put forward its concurrent opinion before sending a decision to the Supreme Court. The Vice Minister of Justice came forward agreeing with the case of Isabel Urson and pointed out that a majority of court dissent would do disservice to the legal precedent of future constitutional rights cases. The case is now in the hands of the Supreme Court. And General Staff gathers. The General Staff has convened at the Ministry of Defence today to assess the security conditions of Sordland. More than 20 high-ranking officers were in attendance and discussed several war plans, the internal stability of the nation, and the overall state of armed forces. and requested meeting of Josef Lancia, Ministry of Defense, Holsord. I arrived at the cubic building that housed most of the military command that resided in Holsord. The grey and brutalist structure looked daunting. I never liked this building. It always made me feel like I was standing under the concrete foot of a giant, getting ready to crush me. It made me feel small, and I never quite got used to the feeling, even after this many years. At the entrance, I was greeted by Josef and his military entourage of young officers. "Welcome to the Ministry of Defense, Mr. President," said Josef. "Let me get to my office." We walked from corridor to corridor to reach the office. On the way, we were met with high-ranking officers as well as privates. Every time one of these soldiers saw me, they stopped and saluted me. We finally arrived at Josef's office. His entourage saluted and left. He finally closed the door and took a seat. "Where is Valken? He usually partakes in all military meetings." "Valken is busy at the moment, overseeing the defense strategies against Rumberg," said Josef. He leaned back and interlocked his hands. "The situation with Rumberg is getting worse, and our lack of funding in the military means that we would fight for survival in a war scenario. Our soldiers are surely better motivated than theirs. We will defend the country." It's an interesting one. This is playing out to a degree in Ukraine at the moment, with Russia's invasion. A lot of Russian soldiers are conscripts, not faring that well. Better armed, supported by outside aid, and with a determination to defend their country. Ukraine, which has on paper only 1/10 the strength of Russia, is doing remarkably well. There is no questioning the motivation of our armed forces. However, we must rely on the reality of the situation, especially when it is a matter of national survival. He cleared his throat. Let's move on to our main topic. The mandatory conscription law has become a matter of discussion, and we need to strike a decision whether to keep it or remove it. The facts are that conscription gives a large reservist pool that can cover a larger front line. These troops lack the morale and quality to be offensive elements. My argument would be to remove conscription if our military can stand on its own 2 feet without them. We're going to have strong allies. Where do we need conscripts? A strong knock on the door was heard, and the chief of the armed forces, Falcon Kruger, walked in quickly with a frown. Conscription is an interesting one if it's a short term. American students have to sign up for special service, whatever it's called. Now, that doesn't mean they're automatically conscripted by any means, but it does mean they can be. What is the meaning of this, Josef? Why haven't I been invited? Asked Vulcan. What is going on here? You're overstepping and interrupting a personal meeting between me and the President, said Josef. Vulcan deliberated the situation. I see what is going on here, he said. I mean no disrespect, but I am leading the ground operations and I must be informed of any strategic changes. Josef, I don't appreciate that you ruled Vulcan out. Thank you, Mr. President. We are talking about our national defence, which must be consulted among all staff. To clarify, said Josef, we would have brought the subject up with the General Staff and you. The matter is rather simple from my point of view, said Vulcan. We kept to our traditional army doctrine. It is not devoid of disadvantages. However, at the end of the day, Rumberg has a larger army, air force and navy. Our conscripts will fill the much-needed weaknesses we have. There is a place for reservists. I think there is a place for reservists, yes. Mr. President, we need to prioritise quality over quantity. We actually need a little of both. Your final decision, Mr. President. Keep mandatory conscription. Mr. President, but... You heard your superior, Josef. Josef threw an angry look at Vulcan before turning to me. As you wish, Mr. President. Let me look over my documents, see if there's anything else of concern. Josef checked his folder before looking at me. That's about it. I won't take any more time, sir. Thank you for your time. I left the Ministry of Defense and returned to the Maroon Palace. No doubt that's hit the news. Women march for equal education in America. In the conservative stronghold of America, protesters, organised by the Sordland League of Women, bravely called for gender parity in the classroom. Like us, these women hope that President Rain will use his time in office to fix Sordland's notoriously sexist public education system. I'd wanted to work on that anyway. When my wife went nuclear, she kind of fixed that as something we must do. A small group of counter-protesters was also present, but drowned out by the cries for equality. Women's Rights March in America. A group of demonstrators led by representatives from the Sordland League of Women marched in America, calling for gender equality in Sordland's public education system. Women were also among the counter-protesters. Interesting. Well, no, that's not surprising. Who argued for the right to keep educating girls separately from boys in order to preserve Sordland's tradition. There's always those stick in the muds who want to keep things as they are, whether how they are is good or bad. El Rey Base update. Acacia has finished moving its planes to El Rey Air Force Base. As per the terms of the new agreement, the Acacian military is allowed to refuel and repair access of the Air Force Base in exchange for providing logistical, financial and equipment support to Sordland. Van Hunten wins elections. So he's back. General elections held in Agnolia this week has resulted in the victory for the newest Democratic Union of Agnolia. For the second time, with its leader, Martin Van Hunten, continuing his duties as Prime Minister. Now that's difficult because they oppose us now for some reason. Briefing on the current economic situation. The team gathered in Holsord at the Ministry of Economy to conduct an economic overview meeting and to go over the current situation. The building was constructed in 1892 by Herrenwald, one of the, if not the most famous architect in Sordland. The building looked simple and elegant, with a few of his signature domes spread out over the roof. Walking through the large bronze doors at the entrance, I was led by two assistants upstairs into a meeting room. Everyone stood up as I entered the room, buttoning their suit jackets. "Welcome, Mr. President," said Simon. "Please take your seats." Everyone took their seats. "As you all know, today we will go over our economic status," said Simon Hall. "Let's begin without any further ado. The aid we have received from Acacia has helped us tremendously. Personally, I think it was a great decision, Mr. President. We will use the majority of the capital to combat the recession. I had to do whatever it takes to end the recession, even if it means dealing with Acacia. I don't think anyone in the room is questioning your decision, Mr. President. How are we doing in terms of infrastructure? Asked Gus. The first months had positive indicators, but the delay of the infrastructure project has reversed economic gains. Mikhail frowned and put his fingers on his chin. Why couldn't we solve the H3 highway construction issues? The National Business Council isn't happy with the lack of tangible economic improvements at all. I expected a better performance from all of us. Our first investment was meant to be a good step in the overall plan. Surely there is still a way to finish what we've begun, said Gus. From my perspective, we need more cash injection into the economy, said Edith. Our trade with other countries increased slightly below our expected growth rate due to a failed negotiation, said David. Unfortunate, really. We should have prepared better for the deal. Sorry, Mr. President. I take responsibility. David took a sip from his tea. On a side note, consumer spending has decreased further due to a pessimistic mood caused by the issues with our economy, said Edith. That is discouraging, as we did the best we could thus far. We should maintain our optimism, said Simon. While I agree that our first attempts were not successful, we still might have economic opportunities left. I may have to take the budget down to -2 again. Our economy has bottomed out. I think we're going to need more investments. It is good for our reputation as the people expected. It isn't good for our reputation as people expect quick solutions. We're running out of time, said Mikhail. Someone checked his large dossier. Sadly, our budget reserves don't look good. We will need to look into whatever we can increase the budget we have. What can we do about it? I will formulate a plan and present you the next steps. No matter the cost, we will have to increase our economic development rates. Otherwise, I'm sad to say we will be doomed. We need to use the opportunities we are shown. Trade deals and infrastructure improvements always help. This present, I will be very clear. Simon took off his glasses and put them on the table. He looked at me straight in the eye. You already know this and I don't want to frighten you, but if we are unable to stop this recession, we are heading towards economic catastrophe that has never happened before in Sordland. No, in all of Eastern Makopa. I can't even begin to imagine how we could survive that. None of us wants to see Swordish people starve, while the state is unable to provide for its citizens. As you said, none of us want that. Exactly. He put on his glasses. Now, there are a few methods to tackle the recession. We have the potential to take additional debt. We're going to have to do to flatten the downward turn of the economy. The important factor is that we don't take excessive debt going into the future. I have prepared a few project proposals. There are two main distinctions in between these projects. It's either about continuing our infrastructure improvements or investing in increasing production. If we continue our infrastructure, that would lift us up to advanced country levels. However, our industrial production suffered and also needs a boost to return to pre-recession levels. There is, of course, the option not to take any risk related to our budget, said Edith. The plans for these projects will be finalised soon. For now, I can provide preliminary information. Which one would you like to hear first? Let's hear about infrastructure. For infrastructure, we have two projects. One is the Benfi International Airport and the other is Morna Port. Benfi is growing at a rapid pace and would benefit highly from an international airport. Much more money to be made there too, said Mikhail. The Morna Port, said David, will boost our trade and improve flow of goods towards Holsord. Because the Conrad port is too small in capacity, an extension is blocked by the Navy headquarters. Economic growth in Benfi could be propelled. It's still yet to reach its full potential. Morna would be a more significant city with a port, and the advanced logistics connection to Holsord would be better utilised. They're showing capacity to improve. Let's see what we can do. Benfi is rapidly developing. There is much to gain from increasing its connectivity to the world. Imagine all the tourists that would arrive, said Mikhail. We must focus on improving the well-being of our worst citizens, and while Morna is no poor city, it very well deserves investment. Yes, it does, but so does Morna. And you've just said it's not a poor city. What are the projects that could boost our production? For production, we have two projects. One is the Sana Agricultural Zone, and the other is the Conriat Industrial City, said Simon. I see the Sana Agricultural Zone investments as a higher priority, said David, due to the fact that farmers in Bergia were the most hit by the recession. Sana is a much poorer city than Conriat. The Conriat Industrial City project has the potential to increase manufacturing in the Greater Holsord region by a large amount, said Edith. Sana is a much poorer city. Indeed, it deserves any investment it can get from the government. The recession has hit farmers in Sana particularly hard, said Edith. Besides, the agricultural output increase would boost our economy. Interesting, you're pushing for Conriat and now you're supporting Sana. The investment won't be able to recover the industry there. Conriat, on the other hand, would bring more financial gain, said Mikhail. Our government has the opportunity to support agriculture, and we should take it. It would increase our exports too, said Gus. I have enough information. Very well. That covers our subject for today. I have a couple more economy-related questions. Edith, how strong is our currency? Currency health was improving post-elections, but has unfortunately stagnated. But there are no losses in comparison with pre-election levels. Inflation has dropped by 2% points. Mikhail, how is the mood in the National Business Council? The business leaders in the council are nervous about the lack of tangible economic improvements in the country. They are holding on to their investments until they feel it's safe to invest their reserves in new hires or branches. David, what can we expect in terms of trade situation? Our inability to reach a trade deal has hurt our position in a regional trade partner of countries that we're looking to. This has caused some imports and exports to drop and has led to some worry in the trade centre. Makes it harder to find new trade partners. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. Have a good day all, said Simon. Goodbye, said Edith. Until next time, Miss President, said David. See you soon, said Gus. Meeting ended. Lots of news on that one. Housewives March defends Swordish tradition in Anrika. As the Swordish League of Women spearheaded a march for so-called education equality in Anrika, a group of self-proclaimed happy housewives led a counter-protest. Their argument is that pulling girls out of handicraft classes and forcing them into science classes alongside boys would be an affront to Swordish tradition, and that co-ed restrooms in schools will be the next logical step. We at the Hall Sword Post hope President Rain will make the same decision and not fall into a trap of pursuing unnecessary changes in the classrooms. Protesters brutally beaten by police. Oh dear God. As if we needed more evidence of Phantom Rain's hateful campaign against the Bloodish people, 4 student protests in Dyer were savagely beaten by police officers as they attempt to demonstrate against the administration's anti-Bloodish policies. Witnesses at the scene. What anti-Bloodish policies? We just oppose stamping down on you guys. Cost us a trade deal. Witnesses at the scene say the protesters were demonstrating peacefully and did nothing to instigate the shameful attack by police. It seems that systemic racism within Sordland's police forces is going nowhere anytime soon. Economist. Swordish State Corporation delays highway construction. We need this highway. As expected, Sordland State Corporation failed to meet their deadlines and announced a delay to the much-expected H3 highway project. Given we were initially told how good they were, I'm not happy. We are unsure why the President decided to pick a company other than Underhall Construction for a task this scale. There is now a lot of uncertainty around the finish date and the project, and whether it will be completed using the first term of President Rain. However, at least one thing is certain, picking Sordland State Corporation as the main contract was a recipe for disaster. Operation Bear Trap begins. President Smolak has declared the start of Operation Bear Trap against the separatist military group that plagues northern Velen. The Bloodish Freedom Front, Rumburg, Agnolia and Lesbia has condemned the mobilization order, citing war crimes committed during the previous assault against the Bloodish people, while Sordland has not made any comments on the matter. I must take a break, I think. Right, so I'm back. At least for now. Watchtower of Human Rights said they will be following the developments closely. Amid spiking tensions with Agnolia, Vargsland increases naval presence, so that's hotting up. And Sordland's diplomacy disappointments. The new diplomatic initiative presented by the Foreign Ministry has led to a major disappointment, where President Rain went to both Agnolia, Stelport, capital Velen, Rakowitz, only to come back empty-handed. Meeting with PM Hunt and President Smolik both seem to have gone negatively, diminishing the chance of closer ties with the two countries. In a time when Sordland needed more regional ties. Yes. One of them wanted to murder Bloods. The other, well. Report from Dyer. Pro-Bloodish protest. Governor of Bergia, Felix Bron, reports a large group of students gathered in protest in downtown Dyer, disrupting traffic and acting violently. The police immediately reacted and the situation was brought under control. Polio cases discovered in rural Suzerain. Reports from our border cities indicated a polio outbreak in Velen has been moving towards Sordland. Specifically, there has been a sharp increase in cases in rural Suzerain and nearby villages. Health professionals have been dispatched to curb these infections by quarantining the patients. There are currently 23 active cases in Sordland. Not good. Ken Van Horn warns about Valglandian presence. Warns about the increasing naval presence of Valgland in the Marquian Sea. He showed his wishes to have a stronger naval cooperation with Sordland. We'll sign a trade deal and we'll talk about that. Why the hell should we support you when you're trying to sabotage us? H3 highway construction update. Report that the construction has officially delayed for a year. The managers of the project apologised in a public statement, taking the blame on themselves. That doesn't help me. Right. Investment in mega project. There are several investment projects outlined which we could start. The Ministry of Education has put forward 4 bold plans for investment projects, with each aiming to solve different issues ranging from production to infrastructure. The 4 available investments are Benfey International Airport, Mona Seaport, Conriat Industrial Zone and Sana Educational Project. Oh god, -2 government budget. We're going to be at -3. We have no option. This seems like it might bring the most income. And so that's what we will do. We are in deep trouble. Very, very deep. Budget allocation of healthcare. We can't allocate more budget. I was having my afternoon tea in my office and going through newspapers. One of the headlines piqued my interest. It read polio case in Velen. Before I could start reading, I heard a couple of knocks. Pascal entered, followed by Lucien. Mr. President, it's time for the scheduled healthcare meeting. Good afternoon, said Pascal. Please take your seats. They have taken their seats and Pascal introduced the documents from his suitcase. He put them on the table. Pascal looked at the newspaper I was reading. Very troubling news from Velen, Mr. President. We have just returned from a meeting with our top scientists on the matter of polio. It seems to be spreading. It might have dire consequences in the Legion. He nodded. What I was told by our researchers was that with the current infection rates, there will be millions of people affected by polio. So we've notified all of our healthcare staff, especially the ones close to the Welland border. Unfortunately, these are also the more rural areas where we lack equipment and staff. We need to be ready for any possibility. I doubt that it's that serious yet, said Lucien. Regardless, back to the topic, Mr. Bennywell. Pascal put his reading glasses on and went through documents. He didn't say anything for a whole minute. Mr. Bennywell, said Lucien. Yes, of course, let's start. He put the papers down, cleared his throat and looked at me. In general, the Ministry is somewhat content with the budget decisions that was made. At least we didn't get a cut. But I'm still happy that the administration continues to support healthcare at the same level as before. Though this limits our options significantly. Our health services seem to be working fine and don't require more investment. I'm sure we can improve what we have. I don't see any ways out of this particular situation. We need funds to bring improvements. We have no funds. As you know, I've been preparing a new privatisation programme that would create funds through selling of unused ministry property and some extra taxes. I know of this too, Pascal, said Lucien, but this goes against our economic doctrine. Additionally, health is a key sector that people expect to have in public hands. Aside from creating additional funds, there is a long-term problem with privatisation in a country like Sordland. What are those problems? People are already lacking proper healthcare, even though it's free. What happens when you privatise? Prices increase and state hospitals close due to their sales. We will prevent the worst case scenario, said Pascal. There needs to be healthy structural improvements in this sector. This is not Arcasia nor Lesbia, said Lucien. You are talking about Sordland, in which the healthcare is free for now. We have people who have their lives depending on a service that is free to them, said Lucien. Messing with the structure will definitely hurt us politically in the future. That I know for sure. But the choice is yours, Mr. President. He's right that state control is the way we've been trying to go, but we are out of budget. we're going to have to allow privatisation of the healthcare. I don't like that at all. But we have no budget. No, we'll keep it in state control. As you wish, the health services shall remain in public hands. Good choice. That is all then. Very well, fruitful meeting, nevertheless nice and short. Thank you for the meeting. Pascal gathered his documents and left with Lucian. And that's where we will end it. We will be back next time for more. Very well.